Hey everybody, it's Dalton. I wanted to go over just a quick video. I'm out here getting stuff ready for fishing here in a couple of days. I'm out here in the shop. And I want to talk to you about how I simplify my rod and reel selections for fishing. We have this back wall and I've been wanting to do something with it, so my wife got me this big giant American flag and we're going to be putting it up there, which I think will be really cool. How do I simplify my rods and reels? I have a 16-foot boat and it's pretty roomy, but I don't have enough room to put 10, 15, 20 rods and be tripping all over everything. So what I do is I bring 6 rods with me when I fish. I generally will have 4 bait casting rods and 2 spinning rods, and let me kind of go over these with you because all of these rods have multiple applications. I don't have one rod that, for a drop shot rod, or one rod for a shaky head rod, or anything like that. Every rod that I have can be used in multiple ways. One of my rods is my topwater rod. This is a Ducket Triad. I bought this last year, never liked it. Bought it for a jig rod. I don't use it for a jig rod, but it's an excellent casting rod or a topwater rod. And on my topwater rod, I've always got braided line. This is braided with, this is 40-pound test braid. I also use that for if I'm throwing A-rigs. A lot of times I'll use it for chatter baits and spinner baits and all that kind of stuff. Another rod that I take is a 7-foot medium action Ducket Ghost. I love this rod. I actually bought this rod by accident. What I did was I went to Bass Pro Shop and I was in the Lew's section. Now all the Lew's rods were white and they had this one mixed in, and I grabbed it. I liked the parabolic bend, it felt good, and I wound up buying it not even realizing it wasn't a Lew's rod, and later on I realized it's a Ducket Ghost. It's an excellent crankbait rod. I like a lot of parabolic bend in a crankbait rod because of the treble hooks. It's harder for the bass to get off. And what I used on these, I use a lot of the Lew's speed spools. The 2 gear ratios that I use are the 6/8 to 1 and the 7/5 to 1. This one here is a 6/8 to 1. The topwater rod I showed you a minute ago is also a 6/8 to 1. A few months ago, I picked up an Okuma Evx Rod. When I started out in bass fishing over 40 years ago, we had 6-foot rods. We never heard of a 7.5 or an 8-foot rod unless you're using a bamboo stick. We had 6-foot rods, and I like shorter rods. These things are 6'8". I went and bought another one, and I use them for a number of applications. I have them both spooled up with Seaguar and Vizix 15-pound test. I like the diameter of Seaguar and Vizix. It feels more like 12-pound test, but it's 15-pound test line. I use them for a number of things. I use them for bigger crankbaits. I got a swim jig on here, spinner baits, chatter baits, any of those cranking style baits. But I also use them for things like tubes, jigs, worms. I've caught a lot of big fish on these rods, Texas rigging, a Senko, and throwing it in the grass or out in the rocks and being able to pull them out of that grass or out of the rocks. Those are 2 excellent rods. I also take with me 2 spinning rods. They're both the same rods. They're Okuma Evx rods. One of them is 7'1" and the other one is 6'10". Now I use them both for the exact same things for finesse fishing, with the exception the 6'10" is what I use for my jerk baits. I like throwing jerk baits on a spinning rod. I just feel like I do a lot better. So on these right here, I got a shaky head. I can throw Ned rigs, drop shots, wacky rigs, any type of finesse application. So because I got a 16-foot boat, I got to make sure that each rod that I have has more than one purpose to it. Oh, another thing, on my casting rod, I just want to show you something real quick. Instead of bringing a second rod, which I have a secondary casting rod, what I do is I put these little P-line clips on there. They have like 55 to 65 breaking point. I use 12-pound test fluorocarbon most of the time. I use a doubled up clinch knot. It's a really good knot for fluorocarbon. And that way, this has got a square bill on it, but if I want to throw a deeper diving crankbait or a mid-range, I just simply use the clip. A lot of guys don't like it. I've never had a problem with it. It works fine for me. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I was just out here getting ready to go fishing. Thought I'd share with you how I set everything up. Looking forward to hopefully having some fish catches for you to see. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll talk to you next time.